escape being part of as long as you're using the medium of language, you're going to be participating in some way in
conventions.
Well, in conventions, you're going to expect the reader to overread you in some ways and things like that. But and there's so many different categories, both commercial and cultural, of the avant-garde. Which avant-garde? The Western avant-garde. What does that mean? Is it something that occurred early in the 20th century? You know, it sort of becomes meaningless after a while. And perhaps I'm echoing what a lot of you are saying in terms of the way I view my own work. I try to focus as specifically and deeply as I can on questions that occur to me about what would happen if. What would happen if I tried to slow this moment down, not simply sort of in terms of pacing, well, things are rather sort of leisurely here, but to slow it down to such an extreme that, well, say, I list every possible concrete object that exists and its position in a room in a given 5-minute span or something like that. I've never really done that, but I find myself trying to manipulate time and to understand narrative in structural terms and to fiddle with that a lot and to do things like use catalogs and lists and ways of sort of actually trying to pry ourselves out of this narrative trap that what feels like a trap to me often.
It's very hard, I think, and especially because the commercial hangs so heavily over everyone's heads. And, you know, the advance, how do you write a book that will sell in an airport bookstore? But I had a great experience, and we were talking a little bit about this yesterday morning at a panel, and I remembered that I gave a little handout of one of Natalie Sorot's pieces, and expecting people to sort of scratch their heads and set it aside. They loved it. They really loved it, and they loved it more than a lot of I use surrealist games a lot in opening a class. I give one assignment in which students want to do that. Many students just really do want to write what looks at first like traditional fiction, and so no, you can't do that. I do try to get them to look at what's happening and where they're leaving gaps, and to examine whether they want to do it that way and to pose an alternative. It's interesting how intense those feelings are about narrative and plot and closure and sort of the horizontal way things ought to be constructed and linearity and stuff like that, which I find really, I feel like I'm kind of drowning in cotton wool when I think I have to stick to that narrative. And I think, we're thinking, women particularly, maybe because we've never been able to, get the material gain from being linear and going along with the program, perhaps. But I don't think history and our thinking about time is working in the way that we think it's like we keep trying to kind of restart the engine and it doesn't work. And I think it's the only way I can get at those big questions is by trying to sort of push my way out of the conventional plot, which does feel like a straitjacket to me. And so in that, I think that's my sense of how this is political. We can't think at all if we can't try to sort of somehow back out of or push out of this constraining philosophical linearity.